Welcome back to the Orange Peel podcast. Today I'm joined again by one of my favorite people to talk to in the Bitcoin space, Robin. Now, if you're familiar with Robin, you would know that he has had his daily podcast going for a long time. He is also the co-founder of Microseed, so he's a busy guy. He does a lot for us in the Bitcoin space. Robin, it is so great to have you back. How are things going for you?
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, even though it's a Bitcoin bear market, things are going really well. So I think this is what I've always come back. And finally, I can really live through it because ever since I'm building in Bitcoin, it's kind of been up and up and up and up. And now it's the first time where it's really a long period of time where I'm not only am in Bitcoin, but also actually building Bitcoin where there's a period of time where we go down. We have now a 40, 50% drawback, a crash, a bullback, a bear market, whatever you want to call it, depending on how you think, how long it will go. And it's been really cool because you've seen a little bit less excitement in the space, which gives you a little bit more time to connect with the people that actually still build in the space. It's kind of the people that are just here for number grab technology. They kind of like go out. They are like a little bit disenfranchised. And I can get that. Like a lot of people bought Bitcoin maybe at the top, maybe over 100K just a couple of months, maybe half a year or so ago. And now they see the Bitcoin price at 60K, 70K, 80K, depending on what day it currently is. And so it's like you are frustrated because you have been promised by all those Bitcoin podcasters, by all those thought leaders and influencers, like, oh, we are going to 1 million, we're going to 100K, 200K, 300K, 400K. And now we're sitting here at like 70K. And that's kind of frustrating. So I think this is the normal thing that's been happening. But I like it because it kind of shows like who's actually into Bitcoin, passionate, and kind of dives through the bear market with us all together, and who's just here for making money in the short term.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say it's actually really interesting kind of living through what would be my first bear market since kind of getting into Bitcoin. Because obviously, you shouldn't care about the price and everything. And I talk about this a little bit on my channel as well. But it does get to you a little bit when you wake up and you see headlines and it's like Bitcoin crashed to 68K when we just had 126K a couple months ago, which is pretty insane. But I think it's a great kind of test for yourself, and it's a good testament to your discipline and your focus. So selfishly, I'm kind of enjoying the bear market, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. And it also like there's this when you are long enough into Bitcoin, and I think the lowest point I've ever bought is around the 5K mark. And if you have to if you remember Bitcoin at like 5K, 4K, 6K, and now you see headlines, oh gosh, Bitcoin is dead, Bitcoin crashed to 60K, 70K, you're like, oh, it's 10x higher than just a couple of years ago. That's not that bad. And that's like the bear market that we're currently having. And what people also miss, they usually compare like, oh, but 4 years ago at the top, we were higher than right now. Like, of course, like if you compare the last all-time high to the currently all-time low, like obviously that's like a bad thing to do. And then you will always end up with the confusion, like Bitcoin is currently not doing that good. And I think if you really understand what Bitcoin is and you understand what kind of opportunity Bitcoin brings to you, you are excited about Bitcoin being at a lower price. Even, especially for us, like for us, it's very easy because we have like 80%, 90%, whatever of our life still in front of us, and the prime time just started. So like we actually want to have a low price. Like we will be earning a lot more money in the next 10 years than we did in the last 10 years. And so when you think about that, you actually kind of want to cheer for a lower Bitcoin price. We actually want to the lowest barrier of the power law, like the lowest line. That's kind of the line I want to ride at in Bitcoin the next couple of years. I'm happy if there's no retail excitement. I'm happy if there is no FOMO event happening. But of course, there's maybe also someone listening that is like 50 or 60 and kind of like is sick of his job and wants to retire finally and wants to take vacations with his wife and all of that. It's it's kind of it depends on where you are. Like if you are now over 50, over 60, over 70 years old, maybe you're kind of cheering for higher Bitcoin price. Maybe you're cheering for like, hey, like just like one more 5x of the Bitcoin price, and I'm completely fine with my life, and I can completely retire with a margin of safety. But honestly, I personally, and for everyone that is like under 60 years old, I think it's a good thing that we have a lower Bitcoin price. We can accumulate more freedom tokens, and you never know. And that, even if you're 60, like you might have another 40, 50 years to go. Like
Yeah.
you don't know where medicine is developing, and you might live a lot longer than you think you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think well, cheaper stats is always a good thing. So it's been pretty easy to stay convicted, to stay disciplined throughout the bear market. But I want to get to kind of the main thesis of today's episode. Last time you were here was last year. You were one of my first ever interviews. So I hope that this one goes a little bit better for you in terms of kind of just our conversation style. But we covered a very broad range of Bitcoin topics. I think we spoke a little bit about your personal story from quitting your job to going full time into Bitcoin building with your content and then with Microseed. But we also talked about how even just accumulating a little bit of Bitcoin in your daily life when you're in your 20s can set you up for a very bright financial future when you're of retirement age. This time, as a follow up to that episode, I kind of want to focus on something that's a little more actionable. I want to talk about creating real optionality in your life and living with genuine sovereignty. Well, I think you're what 26, 27 years old, if I'm correct. You're
27, yeah.
running your so 27 years old, and you're running your Bitcoin podcast, and then also building your company while maintaining this level of independence that I think most people that are a bit older haven't even achieved yet. So that's pretty impressive, and I want to start there. Can you give us a quick picture of where things stand for you this year? Your day-to-day reality, this level of optionality that you've built, and kind of how this sense of sovereignty feels now compared to where you were a few years ago.
Yeah, 100%. And I think maybe before we even dive into that, I think it's very important to note that Bitcoin allows me to do all that. And Bitcoin is like, if you have sound financial background, this is the thing that actually allows you to have more optionality. Because if you save in, I made this comparison yesterday on the live stream actually. Imagine you save 100K US dollars, just in US dollars for like 10 years. You end up probably with a purchasing power. You end up with a real US dollar value of like $100,000 in 10 years if you just like keep it there. The purchasing power might be, I don't know, 80K, 70K, 60K, 50K, maybe 90K, depending on how inflation goes, depending on how you measure inflation. If you put it in something conservative, like with 5% interest rate or something like that, you might get like 150,000, something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers, but roughly 150,000 over the 10 years. If you put it in something like Stretch, you already are way better. Like you get from 100K to 250K. You make a 2.5x on your money over the 10 years. But it's still US dollar denominated. If the US dollar hyperinflates, you're screwed. If the US dollar is inflation is going higher, you're still screwed, and you only get 10%. When you make the same thing with Bitcoin and you could just assume like 30% upwards movement in the next 10 years, making from that 100K about $2 million, a little bit more than 2 million. So this is the difference between making 10% versus 30% a year. And this can, and you are protected from inflation and all the sovereignty rights that comes with Bitcoin. I make this example because it shows how with the same income, with the same money that you have right now, it makes a very big difference for your optionality, for your freedom, what you do. And I think I've actually watched the beginning of one of your podcasts with your dad, where you asked him, what is the biggest mistake Gen Z is doing? Something like that. And he said like not starting early enough. I think if I remember that correctly, something like that. And I love that because this is really at the heart of compounding growth. And I've started investing like literally 18 years old. All the optionality that I have right now is not because of anything else than me starting very early with finances, me starting to very early with building the foundation for the life, because the finances and the money is very much the foundation of the life. And we can talk about how money isn't happiness and all of that, but if if you don't have any money, if you don't have a foundation, it's a lot harder to be happy in life. It's a lot harder to build independence and stuff like that for your life. And so I think this is just like a very important point to make, because even though I'm just 27, I'm also already almost 10 years in the finance markets. Like I started with stock market with 18 years old, and I would have started earlier, but there's a law in Austria that says you can only invest in stocks when you're 18 years old. Otherwise, I would have been already over 10 years in the financial markets. And now I think like 6 years or so into Bitcoin. And this is a very, very big thing. Then one more thing that I want to add to starting early and compounding very early is build with conviction. I've always been almost all in my investments. So like I was at one point all in Tesla, with a little bit diversification in Apple, Facebook, and all of that. I wasn't very big into tech stocks back in the day before I discovered Bitcoin. Then I discovered Bitcoin, and within, I think, 8 months, I switched from having 100% stock portfolio to having 100% Bitcoin. Like within 8 months, I sold everything and put it everything into Bitcoin, which was, I think, might have been a mistake just because I paid so much in taxes from all the gains, which like really annoyed me. But that's a whole nother topic. And then I was into Bitcoin, and I was very convicted. And up until December, I only stacked Bitcoin. I was only into Bitcoin. Now I'm getting more and more warmed up to the idea of strategy and stretch, the idea that there might be that Stretch might be the new biggest company on planet Earth. Like this is literally how I look at it, that strategy might be the biggest company on planet Earth one day, which if that's true, and if that thesis plays out like I think it is, this could be huge, not only for Bitcoin, but especially also for strategy. But we can go into that a little bit later. So I just want to say those two things before we even start in like what I do right now. The foundation to everything was I started very early, and I was very convicted in doing those things. I think this is very important to know, because we always think about like someone that reached a point and then we ask him, okay, what are you doing now? But actually, like it's almost more important to ask him, what did you do the last 10 years? Like if you ask like a famous actress, like how did you get, like what are you doing now? Like how do you live right now? It's like, no, what did you do the last 15 years? I mean, I like, I'm not a fan of her music too much, but like, I like the example of Taylor Swift, because she did a very long time when nobody knew her. Like she did all, like there's a very nice documentation of like how long she hustled in front of no audience whatsoever, and just did it all the time, went to all the things that she can go, up until I think the first like 5-10 years she had like almost no success, and then like it finally hit with the songs and all of that. And with all that to say, the same thing is happening with finances and stacking Bitcoin and building a career, building a company. It feels very hard in the beginning. And so now if we compare it now to like a new Bitcoiner in 2026 or new Bitcoin in 2025 event that started 126, he's like, I added 0.00001 Bitcoin, and now I added another 0.00001 Bitcoin. And then I hear people talking about like, oh, you need to have one whole Bitcoin, under 10 Bitcoin, you're a loser, and all of that. Like this makes you feel like you never can achieve anything. This makes you feel like, how can I ever reach any level of wealth optionality, because I only have 0.001 Bitcoin. But you're comparing yourself in like the first stacking year to someone that has been stacking for like 5-6 years, that probably has a better income, probably has a more life experience and all of that. So like it's important to know that at the starting it can feel overwhelming, and it feels like you can never reach anything. But it's very important that you start anyways. So this is kind of the preface of your answer to the question. And what was the question again? Like how do you live in the optionality?
Yeah, kind of talking about what your day to day looks like now and the level of optionality you have now compared to where you were a few years ago.
Yeah, I think a few years ago I was just working 9 to 5. So I stood up, went to the gym, went to work, came back, ate, TV, sleep, something like that. That kind of optionality of not having a lot of options. Now it's really interesting because I'm building basically two things. I'm building a media side of a business where I build live streams and channels with people and my own podcast. And then there is the company side of things where I not only partner up with companies like Relay, the Bitcoin Way, Simple Mining, and all of them, where I also do a lot of work with them. I do webinars with them and all of those things. And but then I also build my own company, Microseed. And Microseed for me is just the first one. I want to build more companies. I want to build more services and products for the Bitcoin ecosystem, maybe even outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Um, and then a small part of that is also networking and being a speaker on conferences. But this is a very small part. It's almost automatic if you have a podcast because you constantly talk with people anyway. So the networking is kind of already the podcast also. And when you think about what this allows you to do every single day is just standing up and doing what you actually love. Like this sounds so. So I want to address 2 points. The first point is kind of the really bad side of that whole thing, and then the second point is like the really good side of that whole thing. The really bad side of things is you don't have a given structure, which can lead to you working sometimes too much. You like having no boundaries with like where there's the business end and the private life kind of start. This is like a very vague kind of border. And then also it's sometimes very challenging when you have days where you don't have to do anything and you're like, oh, I can just like live in a day and do whatever. And then there's days where there's like so many things on stacked on top of each other. It's just like a lot more chaotic, and I love that. I thrive in that because it's just like how I'm wired. Like I hate boring schedules. I hate like this that. I like when it's
Yeah.
like, oh, here and there. Oh, like now there's like 5 hours nothing, and then there's like 6 hours of like no break, and there's like a lot of meetings. There's a lot of podcasts. Like I have days where I have 4 podcast recordings in a row. It's like sometimes I just stand there and just make a lot of podcast recordings in a row. And this is for me really cool. It's just like you have to work a lot harder and a lot more, and you have the pressure and the responsibility of everything. And so, especially in the beginning, I mean, the bigger you grow, the more you can outsource things like bookkeeping and taxes and running small things to other people. But in the beginning, like it's just you. You cannot afford bookkeeping or tax consultants or anything of that. So everything you do is just on you. Like you are you're the bookkeeping persons. You're the one that brings in the money. You're the one that delivers the product. Like there's like many different departments in a company, and if you start a company, you are all the departments all at once every single day. And this context switching is actually really. It's not that easy. It's like, yeah, like, oh, I have to do my Excel sheet for the bookkeeping so I can report the taxes that are the deadline is tomorrow. And then like, oh, I have a podcast. Oh yeah, and then I should like work on my book or something. Like there's a lot of context switching you have to do, which I love because I love juggling a lot of things. I think I would get bored if I don't have that. And now there's this comes to the positive side of things. You stand up and you have the thing that makes you money. Like for me, it's just my podcast. From that, like everything kind of stripes out. Like if the podcast is running good, like my company is running good, my sponsors are happy, and all of that. Like this is kind of like where the money is coming from. But then you have time on top of that because you got to be very efficient with how the podcast is working. You might have people that help you with the podcast. And I've recently actually switched from 7 podcasts a week to 4 podcasts a week to have more time to build other live streams, other newsletters, other formats. And so you have all of a sudden like, oh yeah, like I make money so I can live. And I have this kind of money making machine, this thing that is going on, and I have free time next to it. This is the most amazing feeling that I started having about like half a year ago, something like that. Like till a half a year, I was just like hustling very hard and like, oh, like this and that, and oh, I have to do this. But now it's like I can actually stand up and I have every day a few hours where I don't have to do anything. So I can go for a walk, go in the gym, or work on a new project and do whatever I would like to do. You said in the beginning, I'm a very busy man, but I'm less busy now than I was half a year ago, even though now there's a lot more happening in my life. But you get a lot better in managing things. You get people that help you. I mean, 2 years ago, I was completely alone. It was just me. Now I have 2 people just from my podcast that help me. Additionally, Microseed, we're also 4 people in total. So it's not just me. We are a small team. And then with the live streams, with the content, we also spread some work out. And so it's no longer all of a sudden you build something sustainable that can run in a bear market where other people help you make money. Like that's the most amazing thing. If you can figure out a way to work with people that you really like and you all make money and you can be friends and you can hang out. Like our microseed meetings that we do with the team, like with Daniel and Fritz, 50% of the time we're talking about AI and like what has been happening with health and like it's almost like a podcast that we're doing, just not recording it. And then like half the time we are spending on like how can we improve the product, what can we do, and all of that. So like because we're all friends, like it's a whole nother. Once you can once you can choose who you work with, and once you can choose what you work on, you choose to work with people you really like and you like to be friends with, and you like to also meet outside of work. This is a huge thing because all of a sudden you're excited for meetings. Like, I don't know if you have worked in like a corporate environment, but people that have worked in a corporate environment can relate a lot. You don't look forward to meetings. Meetings are the worst. Like why do I have to be in this meeting? Like it doesn't lead anywhere. It doesn't help me. Like why do I have to do this? People always try to find reasons why not to be in a meeting, and then there's always some boss that say like, "Oh, you have to be in a meeting," and like 50% of the participants in the meetings hate the meeting anyways, or are not even really in the meeting. They're just in the meeting to fill a meeting, and only like 2-3 people are actually necessary for a meeting. But once you start working with yourself first, and then with friends and people that you actually like, you look forward to work meetings, and this is something really really big, and especially everyone that is working in a big construct of a company can relate to that a lot. Probably having meetings that lead nowhere, it's just like exhausting, and you don't even know what you're doing in there, and just like being able to have looking forward to meetings is a big thing. It was what at least was for me.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that not only enjoying meetings, but enjoying the work that you're doing comes with having passion, as you were saying. And it's a great way to build optionality, to build that sovereignty that my original question was about. So let's dive into how someone can actually build having a sovereign lifestyle, having optionality in the way they make money, their careers, kind of from their early 20s. So I've been watching your recent work on whether it's still realistic to kind of create meaningful financial freedom with your formula with Bitcoin, MSTR, and Stretch. So before I kind of ask a specific question, could you introduce your current framework for kind of positioning yourself in the upcoming capital shift?
Oh yeah, that's so I I think there is something very big going on, and I think it's not a secret to Bitcoiners. There is a massive capital shift coming. The Lynn Alden calls it the broken money, like the money is broken. The Larry Lepar calls it the big print is coming,
Yeah.
and and all of that kind of leads us to capital, which I like the word capital a lot because it kind of goes into what is money. It can be currency, it can be an asset, it can be whatever. So like it takes everything into account, is shifting very, very strong. So for example, we have real estate. Bitcoin will suck out a lot of the energy, the financial energy out of real estate. But not only that, that's one thing that probably was already discussed a lot on the podcast, and people are aware. Yeah, real estate is a shitty investment. It gives you like 4% a year. You have to do the plumbing. You have to do all of that. You have to take landlords into account. And the only real advantage is leverage. But leverage actually gives you less freedom and optionality than you might think. So real estate, in my opinion, is a whole shitcoin in itself. And once you get to Bitcoin, where you just like get 20, 30, 40% a year with not doing anything, with just like holding on to it, it's a very big shift in how you look at money and assets. And so if you once you understood that uh, Bitcoin actually sucks a lot of energy, financial energy out of real estate, then you can go to the next layer. How about AI and robotics? What will be the impact of AI and robotics on real estate? You don't need in whatever years, I think 5, 10 years, you don't need human labor for building a home. We have already such good robots that do things that can jump and do like those spinning things in the air, which is fascinating to see. It will not take that long for houses to be built. Not only like there's already 3D printed houses, kind of a thing where you print your materials and then like just put it together. But there will be a future where you literally hire a company that says, okay, we will build you a house. Just type in with your chatbot how you would like to see it. And there's like 3D printing, 3D rendering coming out, and you kind of go in there virtually. And then you just like, oh yeah, build that. And then there are robots coming and just building that home. There's no human labor involved in building that home. It's all AI and robotics. And I don't know exactly how long we are away from that, if it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. But I would assume it's more like 5 years than 20 years. And so what will that do? It will bring the cost of building homes down drastically because
Yeah.
there's no human labor involved in that. And then the only real cost is energy. And energy cost there's a whole nother podcast in there. Energy costs will come down drastically. So this is just one example of a major capital shift. Bitcoin is a bad investment. People will go into Bitcoin. Real estate will anyways come down from the cost a lot. And the only scarce thing in real estate is then the prime real estate properties, for example, like beachfront properties or like very nice view properties where you see on a lake or something like that. This is where people like will still pay a premium. So Bitcoin will not suck up all the financial energy out of that, but most of it. And so yeah, this is just like one example of this major capital shift. We can get into stocks, we can get into all of those things because the stocks is kind of leading us to the strategy and stretch, where we already see now companies putting stretch on their balance sheet. Because what did they do before? They went in the money market, they went into bonds and other stocks, and they got 4%, 5%, 6%. The risk-free rate, I think SOVA, it's called, the overnight securities from the banks. This rate is like 4%, 5% currently. And so if you have 4 or 5%, that's amazing. It's good. But what if you get 11%? And what if you don't have to pay taxes on those 11%? And what if it's variable, so you can actually get more if you want? And what if this is still stable? Like the volatility of stretch is like 2%. There are billions and billions of dollars coming into stretch. We just had an ATM of stretch, which is kind of like the dilution program of stretch, with 21 billion. I think we will use that whole 21 billion within the next 12 months. And this is then about 30 to 40 billion dollars worth of Bitcoin buyings from Strategy. I personally believe that Strategy will get to a 1 million Bitcoin position this year. Like
Okay.
2026, they will get to over 1 million Bitcoin. And it it's all kind of plays into this whole thesis that you have to position yourself in the right way to benefit from Bitcoin, AI, and the overall capital shift that is kind of coming towards us. So how do you do that on an individual basis? Because we don't all have like Strategy and can suck out the financial energy from the TradFi and the bond market like Seyr is currently doing, and he will be massively successful in doing so. You can use Bitcoin. I think this is the most important thing. And even AI people are talking about Bitcoin. It's a new trend that I absolutely love, that AI people get the only thing that AI cannot make more of, the only thing that is not being able to be copied is Bitcoin. If you think about it, I could copy myself in the future. I
Yeah.
could copy a human being with a robot in the future. I can copy everything, even gold. That's Rashad Soni showed me that chart yesterday. That was blowing my mind. It's um, gold has an inflation rate of like 1-2%, like very low inflation rate because we find only a little bit more gold
Yeah.
over. If you start with 100% of the gold supply, and this is really an extreme example, let's say you have all the gold in the world right now. In 200 years, because of the new gold supply coming in 200 years, you only have 1% of the gold supply because there's so much more gold coming in. It's drastically decreasing, only with like 1-2% of inflation, drastically decreasing how much gold you own as a percentage. Because Bitcoin is strictly limited with like this 21 million Bitcoin. And if you buy 0.5% of the supply, you always have 0.5% of the supply. With gold, if you buy 0.5% of the supply, you have 0.25% of the supply in just like 50 years. Like it halves, I think, in like 50 years or 40 years, which most people think of like, oh yeah, like 40, 50 years is like a very long time. Yes, the inflation rate with fiat currencies and other things are way worse. Obviously, gold is in that sense like already way better. But Bitcoin is not a little bit better. Like it's not like, oh yeah, it's like a digital gold. I even hate, I'm starting to hate this analogy of Bitcoin is digital gold because Bitcoin is so much better than gold in
Yeah.
every single aspect. It's not even fair to compare gold with Bitcoin because Bitcoin is just on so many levels so much better. The one thing is dilution, as I just shared. Like if you hold even 100% of the gold supply over 200 years, you end up with just like 1%. And it halves around like 40, 50 years. Then the next thing is, what if you want to take it somewhere? And I think this is the basics that we kind of have to keep on hammering down. What if you want to flee a war from Iran or Ukraine or like wherever currently war is and wherever war will be happening in the future, it seems to not be ending. If you want to just get over the border with, I just had, there was this, what was it, a year ago or like not that long ago, where this Indian couple with Air India were flying, and they had 1 kilogram of gold sticked up there. Yeah, and it's like, what? Like you can, like, why would you do that? Why would
Yep.
you try to smuggle gold through an airport when you could just remember this 1 kilogram of gold in the Bitcoin? And like it's it's like you cannot take any wealth over any border outside of Bitcoin. Like everything will be taken away from you. Cash is taken away from you. Gold is taken away from you. I mean, real estate is not even possible to take with you. Stock certificates, all that shit is taken away from you. Well, you get punished. I had a friend actually that moved and forgot to report his stocks and had to pay a punishment because he didn't report his stocks when he moved countries. All that is just pure fiat, because it's all denominated and depending on the nation state. Bitcoin is the only thing that is outside of that. And so this is why I personally believe there's a huge capital shift coming to Bitcoin, and AI is actually accelerating that. As you
Yeah.
think, like when AI makes it easier to print buildings, basically, you just like you log in some platform, you make yourself with a chatbot your dream home, and you just like order it, and then all of a sudden you just like see the robots coming up your property, and they are building this thing, and like in 2 weeks you have your home. This changes everything. Well, for example, driver license. If you don't have a driver license right now, I would even say maybe you never need one.
Yeah.
Maybe you can wait like 5 years till we all I was in Miami, and I was so impressed by the Tesla self-driving. I was in Miami. As I said, I was a big Tesla investor like 6 years ago. And so I always heard about the self-driving and all of that. But I'm now, since like 5, 6 years ago, no longer an investor. And so I was curious, let's go to Miami and let's drive around with a Tesla. I was going to a dealership and said like, hey, I want to try this self-driving car thing out. And he's like, oh, of course, here have a Tesla model, I think S or so it was. And I was just getting in the car, driving out of the garage, putting the autopilot in there, put a destination where I want to go. And he just drove there with no intervention. Like it was, my fiance was sitting next to me. And after a while, she felt safer with the autopilot on than she felt with me driving. I mean, maybe there's also, that might also be a comment on how I'm driving. But the autopilot was really, really good, to the point where she said, oh, you can do again the autopilot, because like you're driving like a lunatic, and the autopilot really drives like on rails.
Yeah.
And so what happens if AI is driving the cost of everything down to zero? What if everything is all of a sudden super, super cheap? Do you think about you if you lose, so like if you're a web designer, let's keep the numbers easy. If you're a web designer, and because of ChatGPT and OpenClaw and Claude AI, you are losing 80% of your projects over the next 2 years. That's a problem. But it's not a problem if that's if that's the case for everyone. Because if everyone is losing 80% of their projects, means that everyone is working less, and your purchasing power is staying the same, because the cost of production and the prices also go down. Because if every cost of production goes down the same rate, it's not a problem. So if your labor is valued 80% less in like 10 years, but also your prices come down 80% in the next 10 years, it's not a problem. The problem is if the costs are not coming down and you still work in an economy where you lose projects, where your salary doesn't go up or might even go down, and you get kicked out of your company because you're getting replaced by a freaking robot.
Yeah.
That gets to be a problem if you save in the money that gets inflated away. So if you're saving the money that is increasing over time with the productivity gain of humanity, like Jeff Booth's theory of price of tomorrow, every market is by design and by nature by the force of nature deflationary, then it's not a problem if you save in Bitcoin, if you save in hard sound money, and also your projects go down. But it gets to be a problem once you live in a world where everything gets cheaper, but you chose the wrong unit of account. You chose the US dollar, Australian dollars, the Canadian dollar, the euro, the yen, whatever you're choosing, whatever is the shitcoin of your choosing. This gets to be a problem, because then you suffer, and you suffer a lot. And then we get to a discussion of, will UBI be a thing? Because I think most people will not wake up. I think most people will be absolutely asleep at the wheel, and they will be suffering so hard that the government has to step in because they are the beneficiaries, the banks are beneficiaries, the governments, the fiat system in general. They have to step in and take the big money pot and give it to poor people, and the poor people will not have a good life with UBI. This is the hard reality of like you have this major capital shift coming, and you have two possibilities. Either you are I don't want to say it that extreme, but I think you have to. You're either a state sucker, so like you are dependent on the national state. You're depending on what the UBI is, what the state is giving you, what the governments are kind of handing out to people because they lost their jobs, or you're independent, you build your own future, you are thriving in an economy where prices go down, where productivity is going through the roof, and where Bitcoin is absolutely a monster. And that's what we last time said. Like, even if you own a very small portion of Bitcoin, this will be a lot. This will be a massive amount for the up and coming future. And so I think this is a very long answer to your question, what the capital shift is and how you position yourself. But it's very important that we don't sleep on that. And
Yeah.
the first thing is just use Bitcoin. If you already denominate, even if you have a fiat job, even if you have a job that might go away in 5 years, saving now all the proceeds that you have in the right unit of account, which is Bitcoin, will change all the things in your life. It might be like, yeah, you might not have work in 5 years, but you might also not have to work in 5 years because of Bitcoin, and because the cost came down. Like now, if something costs 1 million sats, in 5 years, it might just cost 10,000 sats. And if you're having 10 million sats, which is 0.1 Bitcoin, that's a lot. And if so, all that to say is, I think there's a major capital shift coming, and it's very important that we prepare ourselves. And for the Bitcoiners watching, really look into AI and how you can leverage it and interact with it. That's a very big thing. Look also into your health, because I think we are at the point where we can live very long, and you want to benefit from all the health developments and science that's currently going on. And then the third thing is Bitcoin. So AI, health, and Bitcoin, I think those are the three things that people should really pay attention in this new world, and it will be very, very important. And one more thing, it's kind of a side thing, but I think it's very important. And it sounds very biased of me saying that, but I think you will have a lot easier life if you have a personal brand in 5-10 years. I say that because if you think about branding in general, branding with AI will become way more important than ever with AI. If you think about ordering a pizza in 2 years, maybe in 3 years, it will be very different to how do we do it now. Now, if you want to get pizza, you either go to your local shop and like get the pizza, or you go on like Uber Eats or some like delivery service app and say like, okay, what kind of pizza do I want? And there's like 2-3 things. You have like the ratings and all of that. How will you order pizza in an AI age? You just say, hey, AI, I want a pizza. That's it. And AI is deciding like what kind of pizza you're getting. And it will decide on like, oh, what's new, what's closest, what's that and that. But there is one very strong difference in there. If you have a strong brand, because you either say, hey, I want a pizza, or you say, hey, I want a pizza from Pizza Man, or I want to have this from that. And this is the big difference between having a brand or not having a brand. If you don't have a brand, you will be commoditized in the future. You will be just
Yeah.
one of the pizzas that will be commoditized in all of the AI world, and you will be you will be just purely measured by what value you bring. How good is the pizza compared to other pizzas? And if your pizza is just like 1% worse than the other one, you get 0% of the customers. Now you get 50% of the customers. In an AI world, you get 0% because the AI knows exactly which one is the better one for the customer. But if you are even 50% worse than the other pizza, but you have the brand recognition and people want the pizza from the pizza man because they can relate to it, it's a whole different ball game. And how does this relate now to personal branding? And personal branding is the same thing because this is there's a few things that a lot of things that will change in the capital shift, but there's a few things that won't change. For example, humans like other humans. Like that's a thing that won't change. Already people are fed up with AI content, with this AI slop that we see. People are like, oh, like, what is that? Like, I want to see real humans. I want to see what
Yeah.
people actually saying. And this is especially now, I think, bigger than ever, where if you have a personal brand, a network of people and connections in the virtual world and a virtual identity, I would say this is very, very important. So what happens if you type your name into a chatbot? Does something come up? Or does someone else come up? The same thing you can still try with Google. Google has still some kind of relevance right now. I think Googling will just be a chatbot in the future. But what are the first 5 pages if I Google your name right now? Is it something negative? Is it something positive? Or the worst thing of all, is it nothing? If it's nothing, you might actually have a problem because everyone now is searching people up, is saying like, hey, he wants to have a job at my company. Let's Google him. Let's see if he has a LinkedIn, Instagram, or all the platforms. See in ChatGPT. Let's make a deep dive on Claude. This is the new way of like researching people. And everyone does it. Like we do it in job interviews. We do it with dating. We do it when we just want to get to know people. We do it in every single interaction. And yes, if you are wanting a job for an IT security company, maybe it's good if you don't have an identity online, because people are like, oh, like he is private and all of that. That might be like, if you find the right person, you might have a small edge on that. But if you have even in that example, it would be better if you have an online presence that shows your knowledge and proof of work and your intellectual proof of work also in why you are an expert into IT security and shows everything from you. And so having a personal brand, and this might actually be the strongest takeaway for Bitcoiners right now, because most Bitcoiners know that about the capital shift and like why they need Bitcoin. They probably listen to this podcast because they do have Bitcoin, and they want to confirm the bias a little bit. But the most important thing is like, what else can you do in this capital shift? One is AI, and the other thing is personal branding. And so this is my very long-winded answer and like how you can position yourself in the capital shift.
You are someone who's done a pretty great job at building your personal brand on the internet. So, I mean, for listeners of pretty much any age, actually, who want to create additional kind of branding for themselves, I guess, whether it's through content, tools, or services with AI, what are the practical first steps and maybe some lessons that you've learned about while sustaining that kind of work, kind of without burning out and just keeping your motivation to keep going?
So I think the first thing very important is to identify who you want to serve, like identify what you will be about. A lot of people think personal branding is about, see how like I'm so good, like I'm doing all those things. But if you actually study the best and biggest and coolest personal brands, they are saying, hey guys, look at that. So they're not saying, hey guys, look at me. They're saying, hey guys, look at Bitcoin. See what's going on with AI. See what's going on here. That's really interesting. They're becoming kind of the the few that we see something. And if you listen to anyone in, for example, the educational space in YouTube, you're listening to them because you value their view of the world on a particular topic. And so this is, I think, the strongest personal branding you can possibly do. Figure out something you really enjoy looking at, really enjoy doing and researching about, and tell people about that. And if it's something exciting that is coming in the future, even better. If it's, for example, currently AI, personal branding, Bitcoin, or any of those topics, and there are like a lot more like that. We can get into health, we can get into like being creative, like all of those things that will have an edge in the future. All of those things will be amazing if you figure out how you can position yourself as someone that looks at that and gives people the direction to that. So personal branding is basically just connecting things with your name. So what are the things that people think about if they think about your name? This is branding actually in general. Like if you take any branding one-on-one courses, like you want to connect your brand with other things. So for example, if you think about microseed, we want to connect microseed with sovereignty, with self-custody, with running your own node. Like there's a reason why we are so hard on running your own node. If you listen to me and like Daniel speaking on any podcast, we almost always mention it, even though we are not selling nodes. Like we are not like if you set up a node, microseed doesn't benefit whatsoever. But it's about what are you connecting with your brand? Are you connecting sovereignty, self-custody, and running your own node? This makes a lot more sense if you have like products like a microseed and where you can stamp your own seed for the self-custody thing, because you have to connect it with the right things. And so you have to ask yourself, what do you want other people to connect with your name and with and what feeling you kind of want to have? That's why Red Bull is like one of my favorite examples for that. They sponsor every single thing that is somehow an extreme, like everything. Like if you saw an extreme sport the last couple of 10 years, Red Bull was somewhere. Like it was like a logo there. They were on the arm, like they sponsored this kind of thing. Why? Because it shows them that they are extreme, they're doing a thing, and then they're selling you a really shitty product. Like Red Bull is probably the strongest example of them being very successful in connecting a really shitty product, because it, like in my opinion, it tastes horrible, and it's
Yeah, it's
horrible
not
for
great.
your, yeah, it's horrible for your, also for your health. But they proved that you can do with branding, even a very shitty product, you can connect it to amazing things. And all of a sudden people are like, oh, Red Bull, like, hey, let's have a Red Bull, like, let's drink Red Bull. I'm like, how can you drink that? Like, it's not good for your health and it doesn't taste good. I'd rather drink I'd rather drink almost everything. Like water is, I always drink water from my my thing here. People were asking me if there's alcohol in there. It's not. But um, uh, so this is kind of where I'm going with personal branding. You have to connect things with your name that you would like to be connected with, and then we can talk about how you do that and what to like. There's a lot of tactics and strategies in there that is probably a whole nother like 10-hour lecture that I could give on that topic. But it all like really comes down to you should position yourself as the expert in something, and you will benefit in your career, in your life, in like I bring everything back to also to dating. Like people like other people that are very passionate about something. Like if you don't have anything to talk about and you're not passionate about something, you're frankly just a very boring person. Like I'm always getting excited if I see people that are genuinely excited about something, that like have a passion and like could talk for endless hours on one topic. Even if I don't like the topic, I find it fascinating. Even getting to know, like even networking, even if you think about just you're on a party and you find someone that you like and you're just like connecting with that person. If that person's like, yeah, I'm working as a accountant and my task is to, it's so fucking boring. I cannot be in this conversation for longer than 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
if he or she is like talking about like the things that he's passionate about and you can see it in the voice and like he's really in there, that's so much interesting. And I talk with that person probably all day long. Um, and so with whatever you want to do actually in life, it's like very general advice. Now we're getting in very different topics today. You benefit from having a passion, to having something you can point at. If you're telling people about Bitcoin AI and the things that are coming to them, and you're very passionate about that, people respect that. People really like that. They're drawn to that. And the right kind of people are drawn to that. Not everyone is drawn to that, but most people are drawn to that. And the right kind of people are drawn to that. And so if you are very open about that, you actually attract the right kind of people, and what is the opposite of attract? I don't know.
I guess
Uh,
push away,
uh,
repel.
Push away, yeah, repel, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you push away the people that you want to push away, the boring people, the people that have nothing going on in their life. And so it's like it's I think it's a very important topic, the personal branding side of things, and having a passion, having something. But I think your question was actually like how I don't burn out, right?
Yeah, kind of what are some practical first steps that listeners can take to sustain this kind of work without burning out?
Oh yeah, that's super easy to answer. Like just like pick topics that you're actually excited about, uh, and don't be shy to change the topic. Like I probably won't always talk about Bitcoin. It will be different. Like I I think burnout is if you do something you don't like to do over a prolonged period of time. I don't think you can burn out from something that you love. I genuinely don't think so. Like if you like, have you ever found a teenager that is burned out from video games? Like, is that a
Not
thing?
really, no.
I don't think so. So it's like if you really like something, like ask a guy that loves playing soccer if he is burned out because he played the last weekend 15 hours of soccer. No, like he's not burned out. He will be saying like, oh yeah, like my muscle are tense and like all that, but I want to go back on Sunday. I want to go back on Monday. If you really am excited about something, I don't think you can burn out from it. You might be getting bored from it and then keep doing it, and then you can get burned out from that because you're no longer excited about it. But then it's just a sign that you should change what you're doing and not. So the whole topic with burnout, I think it can just be solved by changing what you do. And it's a hard thing. Actually, I mean, you can get philosophical now, but it's if you think about what we're actually entering is a world where humans have to work a lot less. And what are we doing with that time? We already see a trend the last 30 years or so, how much hours we spend working versus non-working has been going down. So we are already in that acceleration point, even with a fiat system where every human being on earth, on average, works less than like 50 years ago. And in 50 years, it will be a whole nother game. I think we will only have a little bit of work that we actually have to do and a lot of work that we actually want to do. And so then you have to figure out, what the hell do I want to do? Like, what if you wake up tomorrow and you have someone that gives you enough money to live forever till you die? What would you do? Would you still do the thing that you are currently doing? If the answer is no, you should probably change it already now. uh, so it's it's a hard question because it can feel scary, and people take meaning out of their jobs. We might have a suicide problem when we reach the point where people can do whatever they want to do, because people are used to having the work. They have meaning.
Yeah.
It's super easy to find meaning in your life if you have to go to work in order to get money, in order to eat and get everything. But what if you don't have to do that? Like you have all of a sudden 24 hours to yourself and you're like, what, what do I do? And I think this is also a thing that might be interesting to think about and even make channels and topics and personal brands around. What do you do post the capital shift? Like I'm talking a lot about what the capital shift will be and how to position yourself. But what do you do after that? Like you bought the Bitcoin, you have, let's say, a Bitcoin on your balance sheet. In 10 years, you have more money that you can spend at any point. What do you do? Like, do you have some hobby? Do you have something to do? And do you find meaning in that to actually live? Or do you fall into depression because you think your life has no worth anymore because you don't have to work for your living? It can get interesting. I'm very excited about the next 10 years because it will, from a humanity standpoint, the next 10 years might just be the most interesting that we've ever seen.
There was a lot just said there that I want to get into even further. But in the interest of time, just because I know we've gone kind of 15 minutes over when I kind of scheduled you, so I don't want to keep you super long. Just last thing here. Where do you see this broader capital shift kind of going in this calendar year? And what are some of the, I guess, places of, maybe places is the right word. What are some of the things that viewers can start building on that you think would benefit from the capital shift?
So I think 2026, it's super hard to predict what's happening in the short term. But we already kind of see the things that are happening with the war going on, with people are fighting for power, people are fighting to keep the TradFi system alive, the fiat system alive. And we're seeing even in a bear market how much capital is still moving from Bitcoin, from the fiat system to Bitcoin. Even in a bear market, strategies just buying too many Bitcoin. 2026, like people think it might be an amazing year and all of that, but I don't think it will be a very strong upwards year. I would more prepare yourself for a kind of okayish year, a year that we don't crash that much further, but we might also not hit a new all-time high. We might go back to 100K. I think it will just be an okayish year. If I'm wrong, it's fine. Nobody knows what's going on in the short term. I just don't see a major shift happening in 2026 for Bitcoin. It's currently no trend that shows me that. And yeah, we might hit like 100K. Maybe we hit a new all-time high with like 120, 130K or so. But I don't anticipate a huge kind of shift in 2026. There's not a lot of things going on for that. Maybe that's also just my personal hope. But I think 2027 and 2028 will be huge for Bitcoin. This is kind of, I see 2026 as the preparation year for you to stack as many sats as you possibly can and prepare yourself for AI getting really, really wild. A lot of people will lose their job. A lot of people will be outsourced to AI and robotics in the next 2 years. Prepare yourself in 2026. If you don't prepare yourself this year, stack as hard, the personal brand, get the skills necessary in the AI world, build something of meaning that will last throughout the capital shift. If you don't do this now, it might just be too late. Like 2026 is a very important year for preparation, but not for outcome. So the outcome will come later. I think it will take some time. Like Bitcoin, AI, all of those things take some time to actually get into effect.
How are you preparing yourself for the developments that are about to happen in AI?
first of all, I look every single day on how I can uh, do things differently. So like how I look at things that I currently do. Can I outsource that to AI? Can I do that with AI? I think around a lot. I experiment a lot. I want to understand what that AI thing is, because you have to know, like, it's not just a tool that helps you. AI is something that reinforces what you believe in. So if you say, "Hey, I have that podcast. What is my next step?" Yeah, I will say, "Hey, Robin, you're the best. You want to build a media empire. You should do this." And like, it reinforces kind of your belief, and it nudges you in a way. It nudges
Yeah.
you in the context that it already has. And this can be dangerous. It can be good. It can be dangerous. And you just should be aware of how those things working. So really go deep in how these things work and what it does, and question it. I personally believe pe- people that haven't been, you have to be almost, maybe that makes most sense. Imagine you are the president of your country, and AI is just an advisory. It's someone that advises you on the decisions that you should take in the future. That advisor has his own beliefs. It has his own context. It has his own kind of motives. So you should always keep that in mind. ChatGPT is not there to outsource your brain. It's there to make the work from your brain easier and not completely outsource it. Say like, "Hey, ChatGPT, I have that solution. What should I do?" "Oh, okay, thank you." Don't outsource all decisions and thinking to ChatGPT. You will not. I made that whole shift to live streaming like in December, and a lot of it was driven by AI. And I was interacting with AI, like, what should I do, this and that. And then it convinced me that I have to stop my podcast and do live streaming only. And then I did that. And after 2 weeks, I realized, shit, I made a mistake. Like, I love my podcast. Like why did I stop? I want to keep doing my podcast. And it just nudged me in the direction more and more of like, yeah, you should do live streaming. You have the personality for that. You like it was in the end of the day a bad advice. But there was some good things in there. Like, because of that, I started live streaming, and I really love live streaming. But it's not only podcasting or only live streaming. It's just like I now do 4 podcasts a week and do also live streaming in there. It's just this very small example of how an AI bot, a chat bot, or whatever you're building can go terribly wrong. Or not terribly wrong, but you can get yourself nudged in a wrong direction. So I think this is the biggest part with AI. Be aware how this tool works and actually use it a lot. Like, the more you use it, the more you realize, oh wow, AI is doing that to me. AI is doing nudging me in that direction. It's very important that you're aware of what it's doing. Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting perspective because when I talk to most Bitcoiners about AI, they tend to be very, very bullish on it in that they fully believe they can automate and kind of outsource almost everything to AI. And I've kind of always wondered if outsourcing your decision making is the best thing to do because, as you said, at the end of the day, the AI is learning from things that you've said previously to it, and it's only going to reinforce what you are kind of the narrative that you're already projecting. So, this is really interesting to kind of hear about. Do you view AI more as an advisor to you or more as employee, as someone who can kind of do the tasks that you ask it to do?
It's both. So it is an advisory because it can get information a lot faster, but it shouldn't be like it shouldn't be your CEO. It should be your assistant, your research assistant, your advisor, your person from the outside that looks at everything that you're doing and can give you more context. It's almost like a sparring partner also, like sometimes you just like to speak about something. I love just like getting on the phone with someone and just like bounce an idea around, and then I realize, oh, that idea is not that good. And so AI can be that sparring partner and can be that intellectual uh, intellectual partner in there, because I genuinely believe if you talk a lot with AIs, you will get smarter. They have a lot of knowledge and they throw a lot of like knowledge to you, and you actually get smarter if you have the ability to do critical thinking. That might just be the most important skill you can possibly have in all of your life. Critical thinking, independent thinking, thinking for yourself, ju- judging everything in the right direction, and also not taking everything for granted that just like people say. This is very, very important. And so if you think about the critic if you think about the AI bots, you will benefit a lot from them if you question them, if you give them the right context. What I also love to do actually is telling them about a problem or a thing that I'm currently working through and asking them, ask me 20 questions about that to get bigger context about it. Then I answer all the 20 questions and then I interact with it. And then I go like, hey, but I don't want that. But like, why is that in that way? Like, just like really push it hard. And I mean, Seyr also talks about it because we talked about the stretch thing. Stretch and stride and strive, all those things came from AI. Like he made that because of AI. Without AI, it would have not been possible because everyone in their expert domain would have told them, no, that's not possible. But AI has a more neutral and more global kind of view on things. And so instead of having a team of 5 people, 6 people sitting to think about a problem, you just need an executive that has the decision, maybe one domain expert, and then an AI. That's it. That's your whole meeting. Previously, you would have needed like 8 people in a big company like strategy, probably like 20 people to take the same decision. So AI will change a lot, and those who use it and those who study it will benefit from it. But I think it's very important to note, as you said, not just use it, like actually think about what the answers is and like question it. The same you question everyone. You should question everything that people are telling you. Question everything that you're hearing without getting completely paranoid. There's a fine line between trusting people and questioning too much and getting paranoid about stuff, but that's a whole nother topic. So like being a critical thinker in AI is very important.
Actually, I would love to connect this back to personal brand because you spoke a little bit about how human to human connection is going to be so valuable in an AI driven economy. But with more people opting to use AI as their sparring partners, as you said, as kind of, something to talk to brainstorm in place of other people, where do you see this need for human to human connection fostering? Do you think people are going to come online and go to places like YouTube or some other content platform to seek that? Or are we going to drift away from that completely as it becomes more taken over by AI?
I think we will always have so platforms always change.
Okay.
YouTube probably will not always be the number one. The iPhone that I don't even have my phone around right now, but the iPhone that we have right now as our main device will not be the main device in 10 years. Things are changing um, all the time. It's hard to predict what will be the main device. It might just be classes, or at some point we might actually get chips implanted. I don't know. Like we will see crazy stuff happening, but there will always be a platform. There will always be a platform where you can be on, and that might be YouTube still. Maybe YouTube can continue to be the most dominant video platform in the future. And it's just important if there's a new platform, as someone that searches about personal branding. So like right now, if you want to start your personal brand, start with YouTube because it's the most difficult one. If you can master YouTube, you can master every single other platform as well. If you can gain 10,000, 100,000, a million subscribers on YouTube, you can do the same thing on every single other platform. YouTube is the hardest one to grow, literally the hardest one to grow. Twitter is super easy compared to YouTube. I put out probably 4 times as much effort, or maybe 7 times as much effort on YouTube, and I'm still big on Twitter. Like I still haven't catched my own Twitter account, just because like Twitter is so much easier to grow. I don't want to say
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to grow. I don't want to like, if someone grew there to like 10,000 subscribers on Twitter, I don't want to make it small, but it's nothing. Like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube is a lot more hard work than 10,000 subscribers on Twitter, especially if you start from zero. If you already have 100K followers on Twitter and then just like start a new YouTube, you will have 10,000 subscribers in no time, because you can just promote it on a channel that good. And so being flexible with where the attention is going is very important. But the network effects are playing in our favor. It's not going that quick. You see it from far away. People are not all of a sudden from today to next day switching the platform. That's not going to happen. It will be a slow transition of like 5-6 years, and people that pay attention will notice it. And the only thing that's very important, don't come complacent. And once you don't want to be the guy or the girl that has a huge YouTube channel, and then there's a new platform coming up and you're like dismissing it because you're like, I don't like that. It's like a little weird. It's a little different than YouTube. It's so clunky. And then there's the new platform and you completely lose out on it. And then you have to slowly build up the new thing. So then the question is also, where is the attention long term? I think the longer your content is, the better. So if you have a 10-hour live stream, it's better than a 2-hour podcast. A 2-hour podcast is better than a 10-minute YouTube video. A 10-minute YouTube video is better than a 5-minute one, and is better than a 30-second shorts. Because the longer people spend time with you, the more connection they actually have with you. Like if you spend, if I listen to like, I don't know if you have a TikTok, but if you have a TikTok where you have where you dance for like 10 seconds, the connection I feel to you is very superficial, and I might not even remember you like a day later. But if
Mm-hmm.
I listen every single week to 2 hours of the Orange Peel podcast, and I have like 2 hours literally Nikki in my ear for 2-3 hours every week, I feel, even though I might have never met you, I never had a conversation with you, just like as a listener of your podcast, I feel a connection to you. I will see
Mm-hmm.
you in real life and say like, oh, Nikki, how you doing? Like you have that kind of like almost like a friendship there going on. Now, if we go to other, even more extreme, like there are live streamers that are live almost every single day for like 8 hours. Imagine you are live with Nikki for 40 hours a week. That's beyond a friendship. That's an intimate relationship at that point. You spend more time with Nikki than with your parents. And so the longer time you spend with someone, the better. Another aspect, the more different angles you have to a person, the better. So if I see Nikki on the podcast for like 2 hours a week, that's already amazing. But what if I already follow her Instagram story? What if I also see her on stage at Bitcoin Las Vegas? What if I also see her on another podcast? What if I see her on this live stream with other people? And I tell you why this is so powerful. Imagine you have a work colleague. You have a connection to him, like you're working with him, like you like him, maybe you might not like him, but there's a connection there. Imagine this work colleague is also a friend of yours that you sometimes meet outside of your work. So you not only see him in the workplace, but you also see him here and there once a week in a bar, and you hang out with him, you go for dinner or something like that. what if the same guy that you work with and you sometimes some friends with outside of work is also in your family, and you see him at Easter, at Christmas, and at other festivals? What if this same guy is also now living with you? It's maybe your roommate. What if the same guy, I mean, now it gets more extreme. What if the same guy is not only living with you, working with you, is in your family, but also is kind of uh, is kind of more intimate with you. Maybe it's your fiance, maybe it's your partner. So like the more different views you have on a person, more intimate the whole relationship goes. And so the same is with platforms. If I see Nikki only on the podcast, it's only one view. But if I don't also see her on a Twitter space, I see her on a live stream, I see her on stage, I see her on Instagram, I see her on TikTok, I see her on whatever platform, like I read her newsletter, like you get so many more connections in different perspectives on her, that the personal brand is building a deeper and deeper connection. And we have in our brain not that many slots for people. If I would ask you now, Nikki, tell me 100 people that you know, you will probably start with like, oh, I know my dad, I know my mom. You have a very nice mom. I met her in Mina. Very sweet. I don't know, maybe do you have sisters or brothers or something like that?
I have a younger brother. Yeah.
You have a younger brother, like you know the brother and all of those things. And then you're like, okay, I have some friends here, this, that friend. And then you go like, okay, I know people like Robin that I barely met, like, but know him from the podcast. He's a guest of mine, and you count all the guests up. And then this is kind of like your inner circle. But then you have like another maybe 10, 20 slots of celebrities or people
Mm-hmm.
that you've never met but still are in your brain. Like, for example, I can now think of Cristiano Ronaldo, that I would love to fucking meet. Like he's an
Yeah.
inspiration for mine
Me
with
too. Me
artwork.
too.
Like I was even in Madeira last year, and I
Mm-hmm.
went to his childhood home,
Oh.
and I went to his museum in Madeira because he's coming from there. But a whole nother story. But I have this connection to him, even though he's not even aware of me, like not even a little bit. And we have never met. I've probably been never even in the same country as him at the same time. Maybe with Austria. Maybe he has been in Austria once when I was also in Austria. I don't know, but you have this connection to him because you watched him. I watched him on YouTube. I watched him on Instagram. I watched him on TV playing football. I watched him in documentaries. I watched him on so many different avenues that you feel this connection, even though I've never even seen him in my life ever. And so I think this is also personal branding, making that human connection. Making personal branding is not you showing off yourself. It's about making connections with actual real people and giving them actual value in life. This is how you truly grow. A lot of people go on social media just to brag and just to like be someone. But if you notice, they really don't have hardcore fans. And you see that in sales numbers. If they, for example, want to sell something, they're very bad in that because people don't really have a connection with them. They just see his like thing online. But if someone has a real connection with someone and actually trusts that person because he always speaks from his heart, he is integral, like all of those things, and then he says like, hey, you should have this, then it's a lot more like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna actually buy this because I trust him and he's someone that I value his opinion on. And so, yeah, it's a long-winded answer again of like why you should make as many touch points with your audience as possible.
Yeah.
But it's also in the beginning just build out one. Like it's in the beginning, focus on one. Once you have mastered one, you can maybe build a second one, maybe build a third one, and things will anyways naturally start growing from there.
This is a really interesting line of questioning, actually. I wasn't intending to go into personal branding when I was planning this out, but you've given me so much to think about now. And it's like, I think just tonight I have to spend kind of talking to my Claude bot and being like, asking it to ask me 20 questions about the vision that I see for Orange Peel and everything. So that's a really, really great idea. I thank you for that. But I think that is everything that I had for you today. Thank you again for coming back and sharing just such a clear, like practical perspective on not only the capital shift that we're going to see, but this idea of personal branding, and then obviously building the optionality and the living sovereign that I was talking about earlier in the episode. So I really, really did enjoy this chat. I think actually one of my favorite things about talking to you is that you're a podcaster yourself, and it's so obvious that you've learned so much from all the conversations you've had. So it's by, I guess, second association, I'm learning so much from you by talking to you. Yeah, that's just it's really great always having you on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, like I think it's just awesome to learn from peers and see how we can grow together. And as you might have seen, like I'm very passionate about just like growing the space overall and helping Bitcoin to succeed, and doing that in any way, shape, or form I can do. And if someone genuinely likes Bitcoin and likes the space, like I always try to help them out in whatever way I can. So thank you so much for having me on. That's amazing.
Yeah, of course. Um, for the listeners, if you haven't already checked out Robin's channel, please, please, please do so. It is one of my favorite channels, one of the very first Bitcoin podcasts that I had started to listen to. So if you trust in my recommendation, then I'm recommending this one to you 100%. If this conversation resonated with you, remember that the real value comes from actually applying the things that we've talked about. Remember to consistently stack, talk about build your proper self-custody, and deliberate building, deliberate personal branding. The window in 2026, as Robin was saying, is still open for preparing yourself and getting ready for what's going to come in the next few years. So thank you for watching. If you found this useful, like, subscribe, drop your biggest takeaways in the comments. Let me know if you like this episode, if you didn't like this episode. And yeah, with that being said, stay curious, stay skeptical, and stay orange pilled. I'm your host, Nikki, and I'm going to see you on Sunday.